BJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Steven Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Steven, good morning.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going all right. It's not going quite as well for TCU as it was going. A big loss there. What has gone wrong for TCU? I mean, it hasn't gone horribly wrong. They're clearly a good team, but they're not a great team.
I think the main thing, a couple things, honestly. I think one is their inability to close games. They had a 17-0 lead at Arizona State earlier in the season, a fully healthy Arizona State team as well. Couldn't get that game closed out. They're up 17-6, I think, with 13 minutes left against an Iowa State team that had lost 4 in a row and really hadn't done anything for about 3 quarters. Then you give up a quick strike touchdown drive, and you let a walk-on score a punt return for a touchdown. So I think that their issues with closing games comes down to 2 simple things. They can't consistently run the ball, and their defense, I think, is better than last year, but they still have one of the worst third down defenses in the country and in the Big 12 Conference. So, look, man, if you can't get off the field on 3rd and long, if you can't consistently dominate the line of scrimmage, you can win a decent amount of football games, but you're probably not going to compete for a Big 12 title or for a college football playoff appearance.
Yeah, and that's where we are. So from that perspective, it's been maddening, and they've been right there with these double-digit leads, and Iowa State is the latest, and they had trouble running the ball. Then they make a change at running back, and I think it was a big gain, and they end up fumbling the ball. And interceptions have done them in. I remember back ASU. So if they can clean this stuff up, they can be a dangerous team. So I guess the question is, can they clean this stuff up?
Well, I think overall, I think the answer is yes. And when TCU, if I remember correctly, when TCU wins or is just even in a turnover battle, they're something like 26-4 under Sonny Dykes. So when this team doesn't turn the ball over, they're very hard to beat. But the problem with them is they've been almost a completely different team on the road as opposed to what they are in Fort Worth, especially with Josh Hoover. If you look at his touchdown-to-interception ratio, the completion percentage and yards are probably about similar, but many of his turnovers have come on the road, with the exception of last Saturday's game. And the run game, I think, has been better at home. They only had 10 net rushing yards in that loss to Arizona State, which is one reason they ended up losing. So, I mean, I think they can get it fixed, but I don't know if it'll be on Saturday when they're going into one of the toughest environments in the Big 12. And now BYU, obviously, they'll be playing with a lot of motivation because they can't really endure another loss, especially to an unranked team. So, in the long term, I think they maybe can get it right against a Houston or Cincinnati, but I'll be very, very surprised if it happens this Saturday at BYU, though.
Looks like they're 2-2 on the road this year, winning at North Carolina, that season opener when North Carolina's got it going a little bit now, but they were a mess then. And then they beat West Virginia, and we've seen West Virginia play Utah and BYU, so we got a pretty good handle on what's going on there. So taking on the road to Provo does seem super difficult. Did you see anything? I don't know how much you got to see of that BYU Texas Tech game. Does TCU in any way resemble Texas Tech? Could they do anything that Texas Tech did to BYU, or the talent level is just so different that there's no point in really even talking about that?
I think, the strength of TCU's team is their run defense, but I think, I was a little skeptical about Texas Tech and loading up in the portal. I do think there's a pretty big gap between what the Red Raiders can do up front with that front seven as opposed to what TCU can do. Individually, TCU has...
Well, I do believe Steven has entered a dead zone for his cell phone.
See, it's so problematic in that the Horned Frogs haven't been able to close out games, and Steven here couldn't close out the interview.
Beautiful the way you tied that all together. I wasn't sure where you were going at first. But you know what? I like it.
And he was making good points. Everything was salient.
Yeah, he was spot on.
Yeah.
I was getting a good TCU football education right there.
Right.
He was hitting on all the important points that I like to know about.
You got to close out the
interview.
interview.
Right? Home road, turnover battle, ability to play a strong fourth quarter. Steven can coach. He's clearly been a beat writer and sat at a lot of press conferences and had good coaches spell out for him, this is why we won, this is why we lost. Because he's just right through it.
I think any given game, TCU is very dangerous.
That comes back to the turnovers, doesn't it? If they turn it over, you can get them, and if they don't,
right,
then they roll. Steven is back with us now. Steven, we were just lamenting. You were doing so well, and then the dead spot.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, man, but
you were rolling.
But like I said, man, I think TCU has some nice pieces for their run defense. They definitely take some strides in that area, but look, man, I think Texas Tech is a different monster altogether. So do I think BYU will run for 200 yards or so? No, but I also don't think TCU has the personnel to limit BYU to, I think, 67 rushing yards, 70 rushing yards or so. So I think BYU will have success on the ground, maybe not as much as they're used to, but I don't think TCU has what it takes on defensively to kind of shut them down like Texas Tech did.
If I just look at one game and not the entirety of the schedule and the 3 games remaining, I think I can make an argument that TCU could win because if you just narrow it down and get to a singular focus, I believe they're dangerous.
I think so, yeah. I mean, look, they do a lot of things well. They have, I think, arguably, if not the best, the second best receiver in the Big 12 and Eric McAllister. You got ball hawks on that defense. They can force a lot of turnovers. And they do, like, this is an offense that can score in 1 or 2 and 3 play drives. So they are a dangerous team, but there are some fundamental things that they just don't do at a elite enough level that I think BYU, that I think Texas Tech, that I even think a healthy Arizona State has been able to execute. And another thing, like they kind of have a shaky field goal situation. They're not necessarily great in the red zone. So if you're having to settle for field goals a lot against that great BYU defense, I'm not even sure they can make them. You know, they missed a 26-yarder against Iowa State, just jointed off the right upright. So, I mean, they just – in the right situation, if TCU plays up to their capabilities, I think they can be really almost anybody in the country, maybe except for the very cream of the crop. But far too often this season, and maybe even under the Sonny Dice in general, we only see that in spurts. We see it for a quarter or we see it for a couple drives. To this season, with the exception of North Carolina, they have yet to play a complete game, and I'll be hard-pressed to believe they'll be able to do that on Saturday against BYU.
Stephen Johnson joining us, beat writer covering the TCU Horned Frogs for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. When I look at their wins and losses, they beat a lot of bad teams. Everybody beats a lot of bad teams. If you don't beat the bad teams, then you're one of them, right? The quality wins, Baylor's a good win. Baylor's 5-4. That's a nice win. The best win, I think, is SMU, who's 7-3 now. So I can argue that this BYU win would be the best win of the year. Maybe it's second best given the rivalry nature and all that kind of stuff. But to play at this caliber, at this level, is SMU really the only time we've seen them do that?
I think so. I mean, truthfully, I think so. And I'll take what you just said a step further. If they beat BYU, that would be the biggest win for TCU since they beat Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl. I think I saw some crazy stat. I think it's been over 1,000 days or something like that since TCU beat a ranked team. Now, they haven't played a lot of them just because, the Big 12 kind of deals with some bias when it comes to the polls and whatnot. But it's been a long time since TCU has really picked up a signature marquee win over like a Texas or like a Michigan in that first year. So I think, especially with some the fan base is getting a little anxious, I think. So I think that a win over BYU would be huge for Sonny to kind of calm some of that anxiousness down. But as opposed to like what we've seen in terms of their other opponents, SMU has really been the only team on the team of quality. I think that they played their best football. And Kevin Jennings played really well again, the SMU quarterback. They still find a way to kind of shut him down, force some turnovers in the second half. So if they're able to play like that, they also were able to run the ball at a decent clip. If they're able to play like that, then I think they got a great shot against BYU. But far too often I've seen this team, be unable to kind of close the door on the West Virginia team that was starting, I think, their third-string quarterback at the time. They failed to close the door on the Iowa State team. I know we have a lot of respect for them as a program and what they've done, but they lost to Colorado a couple weeks ago. So, like I said, TCU is capable of making this an interesting game, and I understand why some BYU fans are maybe a little bit more nervous about it. But I think people down here in Fort Worth would be pleasantly surprised if TCU is able to make this one a close one or pull this one out.
What do you think the issue is as far as not being able to finish the deal? Is it more coaching, more players, or just both?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think there's
All right, well, we've lost him. Yak, we're going to have to go to break soon enough, so just thank him anyway. Good interview, bad cell phone. A mixture of both.
So would you rather have good cell phone or bad interview, or good interview and bad cell phone?
I would rather have good interview and bad cell phone.
Okay, I thought so.
We didn't get all the quality content I was hoping and expecting, but we got a lot of it. How much does it come down? I used to think fourth quarter and all that a lot of it came down to conditioning. And as I get older, I think a lot of it comes down to belief. Do you really believe you're going to make a big play in the fourth quarter? Or do you, this is even worse, do you believe you're going to make a mistake? That's what I think BYU has played with an incredible amount of belief. That Iowa State comeback win on the road, that was very impressive. That was when you're watching that game, that was a very losable game. And yet they took over and dominated in the second half. And to Steven's point, turnovers were huge in that game. They got a big turnover that changed the momentum, and they kept getting turnovers, and they dominated them. I think BYU plays with a ton of belief.
Okay, well, what's their belief now that they got rolled?
An excellent question. I don't have a good answer to that. Did that break it, or was that just kind of a one-off, hey, that team matches up better, and they were better, and that's the way it goes? The Utes...
No, you can't accept that.
The Utes have been able to turn the page after 2 losses. You know, can BYU turn the page after this? Or maybe to your point, use it, well, I think this is your point, just off your tone, is that you use it as fuel and you play an even better game this week because you are and you really bring it.
Yeah, these next 2 games, man.
A lot of aggression, a lot of violence.
You've accomplished a ton, but at the same time, you've accomplished nothing.
That is so true. We say that in college football every year at this time. 8-1's a great place to be. It could lead to 11-1. It could lead to 8-4. Now, neither you or I believe it will lead to 8-4, but nonetheless, nothing is guaranteed. And we say this all the time. Even teams that are having mediocre seasons, there's so much at stake at the end. You know, you're 5-4. You could go 5-7 and miss a bowl. You could go 8-4, win a bowl game 9-4, and feel totally different.
Well, TCU has a chance to go 9-3.
Yep.
Which you'll smack your head against the wall that you wasted a few opportunities that would have gotten you better, but still 9-3.
9-3 is a good year, but
don't think it's that bad.
The 3-point losses to ASU and Iowa State will haunt them.
Right. I mean, you're up 17-0 against the Devils.
Right.
You should have won that game.
And so you'll be thinking, hey, we're 9-3 and we could have been 11-1. And I get that. But 9-3 is still a good place to be.
Right. And that is within the realm of possibility. Now, obviously, if they lose Saturday, then it's 8-4. They got Houston. They got Houston and then Cincinnati. So they actually have a little bit of a tough schedule down the stretch. That
was an interesting note about it's been 1,000 days or whatever since they beat a ranked team, but they just haven't played ranked teams. Combination of teams either not getting ranked. They had Utah on their schedule, but Utah has quarterback injuries and has a horrible year. They're 0-3, and one of those is number 1 Georgia in the national title game after they beat Michigan.
Which I believe they got smashed.
They got lit up. I think it was 61-7 or 65-7, something like that. Yeah, it was a rout after they'd won a 51-45 shootout with Michigan.
Now, what did your friend's daughter say? Because she's a horned frog, you told me. So you have that intimate connection inside the football program.
They were super excited after Michigan, and I did not talk to them after Georgia.
Oh, you gravy train them after the good times, but don't want to be there in the bad times.
No reason to pile on. I knew they were down.
You don't have to pile on. You could be there as a ear of sympathy. I'm here for you, Denise.
I don't know the daughter. I just know her dad. We'd moved here, so she grew up, didn't meet me. If I'd lived there, I would probably know her very well. But
okay, but still,
yeah,
you had a chance to help somebody out in their time of need, and you just blew them off.
Nice.
I mean, it was tough.
Yeah.
She was probably with her father because it was during the break.
Decent chance, yeah. Decent chance.
So one phone call and you could have brightened somebody's day when they desperately needed it. They lost 65-3 or something that you said along those lines.
7, but yeah.
67-3.
Doesn't really matter. So since then, they played Oklahoma, Texas, and Georgia. They're 0-3 against ranked teams since then. They haven't had many opportunities, and they're getting one against BYU. We'll take a break. When we come back, it's a Jazz Ticket Tuesday, so we'll give away tickets to see the Jazz and the Hawks on the other side. Stay with us for that and everything you missed in this show next. Stay with us.